Good afternoon, Vandal fans, and welcome to Friday's edition of 4th and Downtown. I'm your host, Josh Grissom, and I'm joined alongside by Luis the Godfather Torres here on this Friday afternoon. How you doing, Luis?
We're pretty good. Just, the sun just started to peek out now. As I just said it, it's becoming dark again. But other than that, typical Friday, not that bad.
Not that bad. We have some of the latest coverage for Vandal Athletics, including a major injury to a men's basketball standout athlete, the latest updates from women's basketball, as well as some analysis heading into the weekend with some club teams, as well as the men's and women's tennis programs. But first, Luis, let's talk about the news that head coach Don Verlin delivered for the men's basketball team during Tuesday's press conference. Really took a lot of reporters by surprise. He just mentioned it nonchalantly, and just some major news. Sophomore guard Victor Sanders, the team's leading scorer, ended up breaking his right hand when he slipped and fell on the ice during the team's road trip against Montana State this last weekend. He missed the game last Saturday with a what they called a wrist injury. And then during Tuesday's press conference, that's when Don Verlin announced the news to reporters, and it almost felt like the life was sucked out of the room. Everybody was really taken aback, and the timing of his injury, I believe they're going to say 3 to 7 weeks for him to fully recover and be back in the lineup. And this really impacts the team because junior guard Perion Calendret, the team's second leading scorer, is out with a lingering foot injury. He's missed, I think, 2 weeks. He hasn't played since January 9th when the team faced Eastern Washington, so he's been out. Sanders is out now, and now the team is left looking around like, what do we do now? Those are the team's two leading scorers, and if you account Chad Sherwood in the mix, they're responsible for half the team's points right there. So where does the team go from this point?
After what happened last night in particular, it comes to show you that they really have a lot of work to do to get the guards fully developed and going, because Sherwood, even though he had a career day of 22 points, correct me if I'm right, 22 points?
Yes, I believe so.
Double check. You always have to double check people, but it's like, even though they struggled, and it was severely apparent early on, even though the Idaho Vandals turn it around near the end with Chad Sherwood, you got to imagine that they still have a lot of work to do, because they have to play without him, and this is now the pinnacle point of the Big Sky Conference. They're just playing conference opponents, and it's not going to get any easier with just over a month to go of regular season play. It's just not. It could have happened at a worse time. But there is some confidence about Perion during Tuesday's conference. He said that it's just kind of like a day-by-day, week-by-week process with Calendret. So the question is, when will he be back? It kind of sounds indefinite right now when he'll return. And once he comes back, I'm pretty sure he'll make some noise and be hungrier than ever. But they have to play now Saturday with a sense of urgency more than ever. It seems like they let that one get away, even though they turn it around big time. It's just kind of what happened in the first half that really was the big detriment to that whole ball game.
Now, Luis is talking about the men's basketball game against Sacramento State last night. The team hosted the Hornets at the Cowan Spectrum, and they just started the game off flat. I believe at one point we looked over and they were trailing 20-6, and they were at one point down 21 points in the first half. It just was apparent that they were missing something on offense, and they just weren't getting it done. Later on in the second half, Chad Sherwood really stepped up for the Vandals. He's another guard that's been kind of an integral part of their offense, but is a little bit overlooked because of Sanders and Calendret's positions with the team. And he scored 22 points. A lot of it was in the second half, 6 of 9 from three-point range. But besides that, I didn't really see any other Vandals stepping up in the 65-63 loss to Sacramento State.
No, not really, not at all. And pretty much Shad was the only guy that I saw really stood out and really was there to play. It seems like guys like Nate Sherwood, Chris Sarbaugh, Ty Egbert, and Nick Blair, who got the nod to start, seems like they did not got a consistent rhythm like Chad Sherwood did. And so at least we have one, but you're going to need more. It's a team effort. Yes, you have your stars, your individual leaders, but you got to have a whole team ready to play when you're facing a huge adversity like your top 2 scorers being essentially out for almost the rest of the season. They really need to get the team really all together instead of just having like one really do phenomenal for the most part, and then the rest of them kind of been subpar at best.
And what's interesting looking at these stats is that Idaho didn't necessarily play a bad game. I mean, Sacramento State went 10 of 26 from three-point range. That's a lot of points, 30 points from three-point range. But Idaho shot 50% from three-point range. They just didn't attempt as many shots. Idaho also won the rebounding battle 34 to 27. Generally, you see those kind of stats, and you would think the Vandals came away with the win, but that was not the case. I think, honestly, the team is just struggling to find its identity without those 2 scorers. And now that Sanders and Calandret are out, especially during this pivotal stretch of Big Sky Conference play, the team doesn't know quite how to handle it. If you looked back before Sanders' injury, before that game against Montana State, the team had a chance to go. Let's say that game against Montana State came down to the very end. They lost it by, I believe it was 2 points again, and that was without Sanders and without Calandret. Now let's just hypothesize this. Let's say Sanders played that game, and he contributed, and the Vandals won. And I think they could have won.
They probably could have won, and it kind of goes, and also it kind of came down to free throws as well, which Idaho for the most part, like if I remember, like Calandret was one of the more prominent free throwers in the Big Sky, but without him, it kind of had to rely on guys that have not had so much success. Like for example, Jordan Scott, who has struggled to get the free throws going. He had a situation late in the going that he had to make those important free throws, but that story is within itself.
Yes, and that did play a role in Thursday's loss. But let's just go back to Saturday. Like, the Vandals were 4-2. They were competing for one of the top seeds in the Big Sky Conference. They lose that game to Montana State. They're 4-3. And they come into this week playing 2. I hate to use this phrase because any team can beat any other team on a given day. You never know. But kind of 2 subpar Big Sky Conference programs in Sacramento State yesterday, and then Portland State tomorrow, where they could have going from 5-2, they could be 6-2, 7-2. And now, looking at it, right now, after yesterday's loss, they're 4-4. They're in the middle of the pack. They're struggling to try and get like a 4 seed or a 5 seed, and they don't have their 2 leading scorers. This could get ugly fast for them.
It's kind of it doesn't look ugly when you look at the final score, but if you pretty much watch the whole game, you got to realize that without your top scorers, and if you have not really developed your players to its brightest potential, like, or otherwise pressured to do better when some instances that you may have not thought of, it can set a huge toll on your body and your mind and how as a team plays. And this is just one of those unfortunate things. Right now, it doesn't look that terrible when you look at the final score and some of the stats, but like you said, it probably could get ugly if they don't make the adjustments or get it clicking immediately. Because if they don't get it clicking immediately, their chances of being one of the top Big Sky teams is probably slowly evaporating.
Yes, and I think that the losses obviously it impacts their Big Sky Conference standing, going from the potential to be 7-2, and now they're 4-4 with a huge game coming up. Kind of sets the tone for the rest of the season for them on Saturday. But I think the losses, because they were by so little, even though they were without Calandret and Sanders, 2 points and 2 points, that really impacts the psyche of a college athlete, especially, being a former college athlete myself, I can say that whenever you lose a game that's really close, it's really draining. It takes a lot out of you because, especially if you're battling down to the final minutes like the Vandals have, you wanted that win, you didn't get it. And now they have back-to-back those type of losses. I think it could really negatively impact this team if they're affected psychologically by it and they think, well, we can't do anything without those two guys. We come close, but we just can't do anything without it.
Yeah, and also, again, I bring up the free throws. Had those free throws could have been made, they'd probably be fine. That's another thing I think some of the players would need to work on is those free throws, especially those who are not doing so well, because sometimes when it's the very closing seconds, some of them might have been fouled out, and you have the guys who were off the bench who don't normally get a lot of minute playing time until unless, say, for example, Calendar Sanders would have been fouled out, or even Sarball and Egbert. Then you have guys like Nick Blair or even Jordan Scott. Because it can happen in basketball, you have more guys that normally don't get playtime get in there in a close game, and you gotta have to work on simple fundamental free throws. And I think if they can get that down, I don't think we'll have much of a problem. But it's kind of very heartbreaking that it came down to those free throws that was the detriment. Props to Idaho for turning it around, because it seemed like at one point it seems like there was going to be a massive blow up, but they found a way, and Sherwood really should be given a lot of credit for kind of getting it going, especially back-to-back threes to get it up to at least 1 point the margin with the last minute of play remaining.
Okay, you can take the positive side. I'll focus on this from a negative perspective. I think that the way the Vandals are playing right now, without those two guys, I think obviously there's a leadership component with those guys on the court that the team just doesn't have right now. And if those guards aren't able to come back from their injuries soon, I think the team is going to find itself on the bottom side of the Big Sky Conference standings. I think and maybe Calendret and Sanders come back, and then they're in the Big Sky Conference tournament and they surprise a couple teams. But I think if you have that low of a seed to start, you're kind of in trouble. And the way I see it is that those two guys, they won't come back in time until it's too late. And at that point, it's just too deep of a hole to dig yourselves out of.
Yeah, you really do not want to be in that low seed, even though with Sanders and without Calendar, they have beaten the top team in the conference, which was Montana at the time. But like I mentioned in the past, when it's postseason, they're more competitive, and it might.
But Sanders did play that game against Montana, though.
No, I did say with Sanders and without Calendar. I might have mixed it up, or I might have repeated myself. But either way, they did it without Calendar. The game against Montana, when Montana were the top team in the conference, they did it without Calendar, but they did it with Sanders. Now imagine if Calendar and Sanders were there on time, and we were to face Montana in the tournament. I think it would be one heck of a ball game, and I think it would be very close, and maybe Idaho could beat Montana again to prove that even without one of our top scorers, that previous win was pretty much rock solid, and teamwork really helped.
Oh, yeah, I agree with you. If Idaho is full strength, I think they can beat anyone in the conference on a good day. On a good day, full strength, no injuries, the team's playing well. I think they have a very good chance to beat anybody. But right now, they're crippled.
Not the case.
Yeah, they're going to struggle, I think. And Verlin said it's a good opportunity to get some backup players to see some new roles and to get some worthwhile minutes on the court. But I just don't think that the team is going to necessarily do well until one of those guys returns. And they need that leadership on the court, and they just don't have that right now.
No. And I think it's one of when you look at it, Sanders a sophomore, Calendar a junior. They still have some playing time left. So that's months from now to even think about. But right now, this has just not been a good couple. This has not been necessarily the best month for Idaho in January when it comes to those injuries, and it just could not happen at a relatively worse time when you have all these guys that you're going to play again. And each game is a different story with it itself. And also, Idaho seems to have a little bit more of a stride on the road. Sometimes at home they kind of are been inconsistent at times. But home field or on the road doesn't really matter this, but you gotta have to work as a team and put all the pieces together. Otherwise, it's gonna be a long remaining season until they come back. And as I said, if they come back, because 3 to 7 weeks will blow by real quick, and then when they come back, the season will be probably over.
So the loss to Sacramento State yesterday drops Idaho to 12-9 overall, 4-4 in Big Sky Conference play. Sacramento State improves to 9-9 overall, 2-5 in Big Sky Conference play. The Vandals are currently in 5th place in the Big Sky Conference standings, but they are tied with 4 different teams. Eastern Washington, Montana, it's a 4-way tie for that 5th spot. Idaho, Eastern Washington, Montana State, and Northern Colorado are all at 4-4, which just shows you just how pivotal these next few games are as far as deciding the Vandals' future in the conference, because if they lose, they could very easily find themselves, 1, 2, 3, 4.
Because they play Portland State, they'll go to 4-4.
Yeah, they could find themselves at the 9th position in the conference on Saturday if they lose, which would not be ideal at all.
No, and you got to get your grip to get your, how would I say, stand your own guard and really go at it these next couple of weeks. This is like the most exciting part of the basketball season, because it's coming down to the home stretch, and if they lose Saturday against Portland State, that could be another heavy blow to their what looks like a crippling season that is sort of unfolding right now.
For in-depth analysis on the injury to sophomore guard Victor Sanders, pick up the latest edition of the Argonauts on the Moscow campus, or go online to Vandal Nation, thevandalnation.com, and look up the story Feeling the Pain by Tess Fox. She did a very excellent job kind of highlighting Sanders' role with the team and what goes on from here. So definitely check those out if you want some more information on that. But now we move our attention to women's basketball. The program went on the road to California this past week, and they're going to still be on the road trip this weekend. And they played Sacramento State, and they came away with a 98-88 win over the Hornets to improve to 14-6 in Big Sky, overall 6-2 in Big Sky Conference play. Stellar game again from Christina Salvatore, her 3rd triple-double. They also had fantastic performances from Allie Ford and junior Carly Wilson, just dismantling the Hornets early on and just holding enough of a lead there at the end so that any comeback attempts were thwarted. Luis, what have you seen from this team?
Well, to start off, we're talking about a Sacramento State Hornets that led the nation, averaging 12.1 conversions per game on the beyond the arc of the 3 points. That was going to be a huge challenge from my eye after that devastating loss against Montana State. But no, that first quarter was pretty much the big difference. Like they scored 29 points, which tied the most they've had in one game against, I think it was UNCU. I'm not sure. It was one of the earlier games in November. And then the second quarter, they struggled a little bit. The Hornets actually came back and took the lead at a very brief moment until Carly Wilson made a free throws, and from there, Wilson had a phenomenal game. She was really quick, especially in the third quarter. She made those six quick points, and then from there, Idaho just kind of blew the Hornets out of the water. It was like literally a no contest by that point. And she had a career high 19 points. Allie Ford's 20 was a career high as well. And Christina Salvatore had a career high 14 rebounds in addition to the double-double that you referred to earlier. They really have it together. It comes to show you that even though that the turnover plagued, also the clanked game-tying shot from Taylor Pierce was not going to stop them, they really held their grip together and really performed as a team. As a matter of fact, 4 players scored more than 10 points, 3 of them well over 16. So they really clicked to defeat one of the stronger teams in the conference. It was just pretty much an all-around convincing win for Idaho, and I think that, and as far as Pierce is concerned, she didn't really necessarily play much. I think it was like around the third or the fourth quarter she made her first points, which was from the 3. So it was kind of a relatively quiet night by Pierce, but everybody essentially contributed to the Idaho's win.
Yep. Allie Ford finished with 20 points. Carly Wilson with 19. Christina Salvador with 16. Geraldine McCorkle with 13. So just fantastic performances. 4 Vandals in double digits. And there was a couple instances where a few other players almost ended up in double digits as well. Connie Ballestero with 8. And Renee Markorski with 8. And Taylor Pierce with 7. So everybody in this game played fantastic. Just all around great effort. The team 6-2 in Big Sky Conference play. They are still battling for that number 1 seed. I believe they trail Montana State by a game in the standings. So it'll be really interesting to see how that team does down the stretch to see if they can snag that number 1 seed in the tournament, because that is very important. Number 2 seed isn't bad either, but number 1 seed just makes it probably the easiest, and I say easiest just metaphorically, because some teams, you never know what could happen. But yeah,
no, they really have something going right now as a team, and right now, and I think it's just gonna get even better. Like Wilson, I think as far as the biggest takeaway is how Wilson was really effective tonight, and how one loss will not bother them. It didn't bother them at all. They just kind of like played and were stronger than ever. It seems to only allow six 3-point shots from the Hornets, which is half of what they've averaged. That's really
true.
Impressive.
And the big thing about that is that Sacramento State was just 1 game away from setting an NCAA Division I record with 25 made 3-pointers. Oh, sorry. My bad. They're a great 3-point shooting team. I'm reading this headline. They set an NCAA record with 25 3-pointers against Portland State, and the Vandals held them to just 6 3-pointers. So excellent defense from Newlee's team yesterday in a on pivotal road matchup, I think.
Yeah, and the when Sacramento State defeated Portland State, it was like roughly about 50 points. It was like 128-78, if I recall. It was around there. It was like almost a 50-point game. So when you look at it, that is a really big win for Idaho, dude. You beat one of the highest scoring teams in Big Sky, and also probably in the country for women's basketball. That's really it's just a statement, making a statement kind of basketball game for Idaho. And I think going into Portland State Saturday, I think it's going to show how Idaho can really be. And I think the confidence level is really, really well right now, and I'm really impressed how they did it, because that's like, it's never easy to lose with a buzzer-beating, game-tying shot. It's never easy to lose when you had an opportunity to win in any sport, and how they kind of went about it going into last night. I'm really impressed.
Now we turn our attention to one of the more interesting stories for Vandals and for Vandal alumni. Former Vandal standout at safety Shiloh Keo was involved in a crucial play during the Denver Broncos AFC Championship matchup against the New England Patriots. Shiloh Keo was recently signed by the Broncos as part of like a social media lobbying campaign. He tweeted his former coach Wade Phillips with the Broncos after they signed a safety, and this is while Shiloh Keo is a free agent, and said, "Hey, did you guys forget about me? Because I'm available to play." And he texted back and said, "We didn't forget about you. We always keep you in mind." And then the next week, he actually got signed by the Denver Broncos and played a crucial impact for the team. He actually intercepted Phillip Rivers in the team season finale to secure the number 1 seed in the AFC playoffs. That played huge in the AFC Championship game when the team got to host New England instead of traveling to Foxborough. I think that is just immensely huge swing of momentum right there. And then throughout the game, he was matched up against Patriots tight end Rob Gronkowski, who is no easy feat to cover, the big guy.
Rob Gronkowski. He's a different kind of animal easily. And when you're able to beat him in crucial plays, that comes to show you that you're an impact player.
Yes. Keo was able to have, he had a couple tips in the game. Cronkkowski did catch that almost game-tying touchdown there at the end, but the Broncos had just superb coverage in that 2-point conversion attempt that they were able to knock that ball down that Brady threw to try and tie the game up. So Keo's role here came during the onside kick. There's 12 seconds left in this game. The Patriots trail by 2 points, 20-18. Everybody knows they're going to onside the ball to try and have some sort of attempt to, maybe they recover it, maybe they throw it down the field 20 yards and they try a 60-yard field goal or something. You never know. Anything can. You've seen like those records that are set in Denver with the wind and everything. And Shiloh Keo gets called out on the field as part of the hands unit, is what they call it. The guys on the team who are the best at controlling the ball and just kind of falling on it. And so Pro Bowl kicker Steven Gostkowski for the Patriots lined up for this kick, and he boots it, and Shiloh Keo reacts immediately. He grabs it, and even as he's getting hit by these Patriots players, he falls on it, and the refs signal that it's the Broncos' ball, and he jumps out of the pile, and his arms are raised, and he's like yelling down towards the sideline and running, and the crowd is going wild, and he secured Denver's berth in Super Bowl 50 with that play. Just outstanding. It was amazing to see a former Vandal play such a pivotal role there at the end of the game.
That would be, I'm really hoping that would be one of the Super Bowl stories that they do, those 5-hour pregame shows on CBS, because that is crucial, especially how his journey kind of began as from before even signing to Denver. And considering he made a key play in the AFC, not only at the finale to pretty much secure Denver the number 1 seed, but now able to do something significant like a major play that secured an AFC championship game for Denver against one of the top overall, as much people will hate to admit, but kind of legitimately, to be one of the top-notch teams in the NFL is really huge. Especially, nobody really knew how Denver was going to do with the whole Peyton Manning story.
Yes, everybody essentially wrote the Broncos off, and a fantastic win by the team. Shiloh Keo, after the game, he gave an interview to the press, and he said, quote, "When I think about it, I get emotional. They believed in me. That's why they brought me here. They trust everyone in this locker room. I just hope I can continue to come through and bring home a Super Bowl." End quote. Fantastic story. We will continue to cover Keo and the Broncos and Super Bowl 50, and that'll be coming up February 7th at 3:30 p.m. Just if you want to read a little bit more about it, check out the story on thevandalnation.com. The story is entitled Super Bowl Bound, or pick up today's edition of the Argonaut all around the Moscow campus. So, Luis, we're going to turn our attention here real quick in the closing minutes. Just kind of a brief overview of Vandal Athletics this week. Swim and dive is away on the road for the Air Force Invitational. Track and field is competing in Seattle with the UW Invite. Men's hockey is going to be traveling to McCall to face Boise State. Women's basketball will be on the road versus Portland State. Men's basketball will be home hosting Portland State in the Cowan Spectrum. That game is at 7 p.m., so if you're in the area, Vandals, definitely step by and support our basketball program during this pivotal game. Women's tennis is away. They're playing Oregon. Oregon's very highly ranked. Men's tennis is away. It's away, but they're playing in Lewiston against UC Riverside on Sunday. And women's hockey is traveling on the road to Cheney, Washington this weekend to face Eastern Washington. So, Luis, in the final couple minutes, we're going to play a little game. It's called Yes or No. I'm going to tell you about something on television this weekend, and you're going to tell me if you are interested in it, if you're not, and your reasons why. So,
okay.
Today's event is the Reese's Senior Bowl, Saturday, January 30th at 2:30 p.m. Eastern Time, so that's 11:30 Pacific Time on the NFL Network. It is a collection of seniors from around the country for college programs playing in a quote-unquote like bowl game before the NFL draft later this spring. A couple highlights: North Dakota State quarterback Carson Wentz, Indiana offensive tackle Jason Springs, Ohio State wide receiver Braxton Miller. So, Luis, tell me, what's your response? Yes or no, are you interested?
Even on this cloudy day, Friday, I'm not sure. What game is this on the NFL Network? There you go. I don't have the NFL Network, so I won't be able to watch the game to begin with. So that's a definite no, unfortunately.
See, I'm going to say no, and here's my reasoning for this. As much as I love football and I would love to hold on to any last shred of the football season, I think they're overdoing it. I think the Senior Bowl is just another, it's like a quote-unquote all-star game for seniors, and I don't know, I think it's overplayed, and there's better events going on this weekend. Why not just let the football players, the seniors, enjoy their last few weeks at school and prepare for the NFL draft instead of this bowl game that serves no purpose. So my response is no. I'm not interested in this. But there are some people. So if you do have NFL Network, we see Senior Bowl tomorrow at 11:30 p.m. Pacific Standard Time. Well, that's all that we have for today. I'd like to thank you guys for tuning in to 4th and Downtown Friday. We will be back Sunday from 11 a.m. to 12 p.m. We will discuss men's and women's basketball as well as some of the other events that happened this weekend. So, visit our website, www.thevandalnation.com. Follow us on Instagram, thevandalnation, or follow us on Twitter. We provide updates as quickly as possible on all sorts of events at Vandal Nation. Thank you for tuning in. I'm Josh Grissom, joined with Luis the Godfather Torres this Friday afternoon. Luis, any final words?
Well, you think you know me, the official season premiere will start at around 6:15 and it'll end at 8:30 right here on KUOI FM Moscow 89.3. But besides that, I guess I'm going to have to say San Diego is going to stay. And I still don't understand why they fired. Who fires a head coach who was the best team in the East? I don't understand. Even though it's been a week, but still, come on, man. Till we meet again, folks.
Thank you for tuning in to 4th and Downtown. I'm Josh Grissom. Enjoy your weekend, Vandals.